you want.
He's in comment. He'll ask. He'll probably do it in comments.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. As far as I know.
So anyone that would like to speak tonight, either at the public comment section, which is general public comments, or at the public legislative hearing, if you'll sign up here. Anybody who would like to speak and hasn't had an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
You got it checked.
I'll wait until you take the phone.
We have two phone board members out, so we're not going to do that meeting. We should have to sit on, but then Wednesday, the board of adjustment, which is the same group, but this is the training, so we'll have to do it. We're following.
Yes.
Okay.
We got like a minute.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I know she's a sunshine list.
Yes, she is.
And I didn't know if I should mention it to this board.
It might not be a bad idea. I mean, we could do that training probably through Zoom, but I think it'd be more effective in person.
Move it on. I got
And so it may be ready.
mystery woman.
Sure. Not yet, maybe.
Clean smile.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome anyone who may be viewing live via YouTube and everyone that's here tonight here in Town Hall. If I could, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I will ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence. We actually have Mr. Reverend Dean Hunter here from Central Baptist who will do our prayer, and immediately following the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the privilege to be here. Thank you for our leaders, our local leaders here in Landis and in our county and in our state and in our country. We are called in your word to pray for them, and we do that. We pray for wisdom and discernment as they make decisions that affect all of us, that you would give them clarity and guidance, and they'd look for you, to you for that guidance. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this time, we will move to adopt the agenda. There were a few items added to the agenda under 8, A, B, and C. There is a new agenda out for you.
I have a copy of that for everybody that would like to.
You have that one.
I do. What about planning board? It's on the. It's not on the new one.
It is. It's 8, and then A, B, and C are separate. It should be 8 straight across out.
Perfect. Okay.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mayor and board, I move that we move to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, we will have citizen comments.
Miss Nadine Cherry.
Nadine Cherry in West Garden Street. I will start this evening by letting you know I am very disappointed with your town manager, Diane Seaford. I am scheduled to have a meeting with her this coming Wednesday about leaves and other things being allowed based on the sidewalks. She has told me in an email back to me, it is my understanding the leave situation has been resolved and we are all good at this time. I also received a response from your ADA representative stating that she understood our situation and that we are doing the best we can. The fact that the situation has been resolved and your ADA representative is satisfied tells me we are currently in good standing. That will be my position with you. If you want to come and voice your concern, please do. But understand that I will not be taking any additional action on the matter. Ms. Seifert, I would like to know if and when you have received any ADA training. I can tell you the answer is no, you haven't. Same thing with garbage bins being allowed to be placed on the sidewalks. Under ADA, sidewalks are to be 36 inches wide, free and clear of anything blocking them. I do have 180 days to file a federal complaint with the Department of Justice. I also couldn't get the correct information. I emailed Ms. Seifert asking for information about the public legislative meeting, the ordinance amending the Landis Development Ordinance, ordinance number ZTA-2022-01-10. Once again, when trying to get the information about this, Ms. Seifert sent my request to Ms. Levy, and I did not get what I asked for. So I contacted Alderman Stewart, and he was gracious enough to send me what I asked for.
Mr. Dean Hunter.
Appreciate your time, and once again, all you guys do. And I want to clarify, I'm here on behalf of the South Rowan Public Schools Bible Teaching Association, not on behalf of the Rowan Salisbury Board of Education, so that we're clear on that. And I have a letter from David Roberts, who is one of our board members, once again, of the South Rowan Public Schools Bible Teaching Association, myself, and then Bennett Hester is also here. And my understanding is you guys have had some conversation, but this is a letter from him and really from our board, and I'm just going to read most of it, if that's all right. He says, we say, please allow me to express our request for your enthusiastic support for a proposed 5K run/walk event in the Landis area on Saturday morning, September 10th, 2022. This event would be our third major fundraiser for South Rowan Public Schools Bible Teaching Association as a community event for the citizens of Landis. And you may or may not know that this board, our board, is responsible for raising the funds to supply not only the pay, but the total benefits package of the teachers. Now there are 2 teachers, both in high school and middle school. 2 of those schools are here in Landis, South Rowan and Coyer Light. We now have a class at Jesse C. Carson as well as China Grove Middle School. And so we have 2 events already that help in raising those funds. One is the L.D. Gray Memorial Spring Bible Banquet, and the other is a Fall Bible Golf Tournament. This would be the third. And what would be requested from the board, from the Bible Teaching Board, would be support from the Landis Police, Landis Fire, Landis Parks and Recreation Department that may be needed for planning or protection or safety of the participants in the event. Also support from the town of Landis in informing the citizens of Landis about this event and encouraging their participation. And the third thing that would be asked of, and quite honestly, I am, it's not my letter, but I'm representing, they would ask if there could be any financial support from the town of Landis as a sponsor of the event. with a suggested contribution of $1,000. And so there's no, I kind of understand how the boards work. There's no need for immediate action. I don't know if you guys want to do that or not, but I would be glad to answer any questions that I might be able to answer if that's something you would like to do. Or I'm going to put Bennett on the spot. He might be able to answer some if you care to ask any questions regarding that. If not, we look forward to hearing back from you.
What kind of timeline, when would you like an answer from the board? I mean, obviously not tonight, but, I mean, some kind of time frame for us.
A good answer tonight would be great, but
Right.
no. No, in timeline-wise, the events in September, there's already a lot of planning going on, but a definitive, at least on the ability to have it and the support from the town, regardless of the financial support, I would say probably in the next couple months. Would that be adequate? Maybe by
February?
end of March?
End of March, okay.
I like February, but you
Can
know,
we
I'm
put this on
trying to
the
be
next month's
gracious.
agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Put it on
for
next-
February?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just placed it on this.
Our
But-
February meeting is the 14th, so we should be on.
Gonna meet on Valentine's Day?
We are. We're.
Well, I
we
know.
all love each other, you know.
I have a meeting that day as well, but I think somebody wants to move it for a date or something. So, all right. So we'll have somebody back on the 14th. Is that good? All right. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thank you. Anyone else on public comments?
No.
All right. We will move to adopt the minutes from 11/8/21 and 12/13/21.
Mayor and Board, I move that we adopt the minutes from November 8th and December 13th of 2021.
I'll second that.
On page 2 of the November 8th meeting, Mr., I just saw it. Page 2 of November 8th meeting, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was address, need to change the name of a street. Ernie Willard Tuttlemore, I think there's a Tuttlemore in Kannapolis. He's on Tullymore.
So, yeah.
Tully.
Tully, Tulley. I believe it's a Tuttle or something like that in Kannapolis. Other than that, I'm good.
All right. I have a second.
I second it.
No, I think that you second, right?
It doesn't matter. We can
Well,
move
I
it
just
back.
want to make sure I have a second before I move. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We will move to number 7, the public legislation.
We'll start that this evening with Mr. Flo explaining that process and what we're looking at.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board, members of the public, staff. I hate to bring you such exciting information as we have tonight, but nonetheless, I'll not delay any further and jump right into it.
If,
The
Mr.
state-
Flo, if you may, let me officially open up this public.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mayor and Board, I move that we open up the public legislative hearing for the ordinance amending the Landis Development Ordinance ZTA 2022-01-10.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The statutes in North Carolina have for quite some long time now had provisions where, everybody understand mask? Where some certain violations of local government ordinances are civil penalties, largely meaning fines, or they are criminal offenses, typically misdemeanors, and that might be something like a violation of the flood damage prevention ordinance or something like that. That's not necessarily traditionally what you think of as criminal, like a robbery or something like that. And your ordinance, as far as the planning department is concerned, your Unified Development Ordinance was prepared in 2021, and it was set up based on the current state law at the time last year, which still had a few offenses that were criminal, and most of them were non-criminal offenses. Later in the 2021 session, essentially enacted, I believe it was Session Law 2021-138, if I remember my statutes and Session Law, decriminalized all of these
miscellaneous minor types of offenses, meaning that they are no longer punishable by saying, well, if you've got tall grass, we're going to throw you in jail or anything like that. It's all civil penalties or what we refer to as fines or penalties that are monetary. So what we've done is we've gone through the Landis Development Ordinance, gone through the Landis Development Ordinance and corrected that, and so you have actually two versions tonight, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. The first version is what we took to the board, okay, and it's 3 pages. The first one on your little stack. The ordinance number in the corner, the upper left, is the same. It's 2022-01-10. There are essentially 9 parts to that ordinance, or 3 pages. That comes to you recommended by the planning board. And while we were in the midst of all of this, we also came across a clarification that we wanted to back with this as you were considering it. So that got factored into a revised draft that you have that has 10 parts or 4 pages. And that revised draft adds another clarification on some parking standards in new development, okay? And so that's the one that we are recommending that you actually act on, and that's what's been the subject of the advertisement for the hearing and things of that nature. So we had our original draft that went to the planning board, and then coming out of that process, we had a revised draft. So the second page version is the one that is actually recommended. There's a couple things in here that we're doing that I want to point out to you, and the first one is on the first page, part 1, and that is to authorize the town clerk and staff to make typographical corrections or edits, but most importantly, the reason we're really pushing this is when the legislature acts to change something that doesn't really affect someone's property, like the standards that apply to their property, just some kind of procedural thing like changing the penalties from criminal to civil, that we would be authorized just to make that change in accordance with the new statute and not have to go to the planning board for a recommendation, because what's the planning board going to recommend? That you not do it or do it? And then going through the hearing process to take comments on it, because really you don't have much choice in it. The statute is the statute when it comes to those minor types of things. The other is to clarify that when minor changes to data occur, like on your zoning map, the basis underneath your zoning map is property lines, and if property lines get changed, those are actually edits that we make on those documents, but they don't change the zoning of somebody's property. There's no substantive effect. It's just changing the background material and what have you. So that's what that part 1 would do, is it would enable us to not overstep our boundaries, but have the authority to go ahead and make those corrections that don't necessarily change the way it would affect someone's property or anyone's standards or specifications that they would develop to. So I wanted to point that out. We also reference that should it be a result of court, such as the Supreme Court or Court of rulings, things of that nature. So that's what you're looking at in this ZTA 2022-01-10. Normally we don't like amending brand new ordinances, but the legislature did that for us, and that's where we stand today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flo. Ask for comments by the public at this time.
Nadine Cherry.
Nadine Cherry, West Garden Street. If this has to be done, then so be it. I'm against it. Are we going to let Governor Cooper tell us what we can and can't do?
That's the only comment.
All right, at this time, I will ask for a motion to close the hearing.
Mayor and Board, I move that we close the public legislative hearing.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, at this time, we will consider action to the adopted ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move to number 8.
Yes. Last month, we talked about the need to nominate and vote on a planning board. That is on your agenda for this month.
All right. Hold on, I gotta look it up. Okay. Do you have that on top?
I don't have it on top. On the agenda, I do.
Do you have her name?
Beryl Alston.
Go ahead, I can't hear you.
Beryl Alston.
Yes, I can't remember. Can you spell it for us?
At this time, all right.
Yes. Beryl Alston, we have a recommendation. She comes from Alderman Stewart to fill this position. It's not an alternate, correct?
No, it's a
We-
position.
Is a
No,
position.
It's a
Perfect.
full planning board member
Yes.
position.
And so I would like to nominate her, and if I have a motion.
Mayor and Board, I nominate and appoint Alston as a part of the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against?
One of the additions to tonight's agenda is 8A, and that is to consider a letter to the Local Government Commission. We are required to do that each year as part of our audit process, to respond to any issues that were pointed out in our audit. Finance Officer Norwood has done a great job of writing our letter for us, and I would just like to read that to you, and then we will each of you will need to sign it so we can send it into the LGC. We have carefully reviewed the audit findings and financial performance indicators of concern presented to the Board of Aldermen by Tanya Thompson of Martin Starnes and Associates on December 13th. Our response addressing each item follows. Prior period adjustments included as a material weakness. Several prior period adjustments had to be made in order to accurately report net assets and better reflect accrual cutoffs. It was recommended that the town reconcile its property records to its capital asset listing as part of its annual asset maintenance procedures, and to recognize revenues and expenditures based on when they are earned, regardless of when the related billing or cash flows take place. A permanent finance officer has been hired as of November 1st, 2021 to conduct the annual capital reconciliation and ensure that revenues and expenditures are recorded properly throughout the year. The town anticipates that having a fully staffed finance department will allow for more accurate reporting throughout the year and prevent a repeat occurrence of this material weakness. Significant audit adjustments included as material weaknesses. The existence of material weaknesses indicate that the town internal controls did not detect and prevent reporting errors. It was recommended that management examine the adjustments required as part of the audit to assure that they are reconciled and posted prior to any subsequent audits. Management supports this recommendation and is presently reviewing the adjustments made in the current audit. Year-end closed procedural changes as a result of this review will be made by January 31st, 2021. The town anticipates that internal control systems upon revision will be sufficient to detect, prevent, and address reporting errors going forward. Questions regarding this response letter may be addressed to Diane Seaford or Chase Norwood. Do you have any questions on those? The first one basically addresses the fact that, quite honestly, we inherited a bit of a mess a couple of years ago and felt like the day-to-day operations were the priority. The first one really talks about our list of fixed assets. We got to that last year and reconciled it, but it was outstanding at the beginning of the year because we had not addressed that at that point. The second one, and Chase, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did not have any of this reported last year, so we thought that we were doing it the way the previous auditor wanted it done. And a lot of that has to do with timing. If you, especially for invoices that you have that split one fiscal year to the next fiscal year, maybe we send out, well, we do send out our electric bills and they go out on the last day of the month, but they cover from the 15th to the 15th. So you have to take that revenue and record it in 2 different years. The same thing is true when you pay an invoice. If we have invoices that are due, but they covered from the 15th to the 15th, those have to be split between your fiscal years. Some auditors have a stricter standard on that than others, and there were a few changes to some of the ways that we had done that. The consistency of having the same auditor should eliminate that this coming year, and we are aware of how they want that handled, so we'll be doing it appropriately moving forward.
Any questions?
No questions.
Do I have a motion to consider the LG letter?
I make the motion that we accept the
I second.
letter.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8B is consider a personnel policy and observed holiday change. I'm going to speak for Amber if she is okay with that. She is also our town clerk and needs to take minutes while we're going through here. So please consider a proposed change to the Town of Landis personnel policy concerning holidays. In a recent survey of surrounding municipalities, it was brought to my attention that the Town of Landis personnel policy does not allow for a paid holiday for employees on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Surrounding municipalities, including China Grove, Granite Quarry, Kannapolis, and Salisbury, all observe this day. Adding this holiday will allow employees to have a total of 12 paid holidays when Christmas falls on a Sunday, Monday, Friday, or Saturday, and 13 paid holidays when Christmas falls on Tuesday through Thursday. This is consistent with other municipalities totaling either 12 paid holidays or 13. Holidays are considered part of the employee benefit package as well as the Town of Landis personnel policy. And she has included the personnel policy amendment, which basically just adds that holiday.
When will this take effect?
It will take effect starting next Monday.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
Mayor and Board, I move that we consider adopting and changing the personnel policy in our observed holiday list to incorporate that of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
I second that.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Jordan came and visited us this afternoon and requested that we also consider a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. proclamation. Our surrounding communities support this proclamation and do it for each of their towns as well. The proclamation reads as follows. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day 2022. Whereas the civil rights movement profoundly shaped the trajectory of the United States of America, and whereas one of the great leaders of the civil rights movement is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose dream continues to inspire our nation and is just important today as it was in the 1960s, and whereas Dr. King devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union, and whereas even with the gains of the civil rights movement, there are many goals and needs that the Town of Landis must realize to continue our commitment to achieve justice in our society. And whereas Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities. And whereas each of us can and must contribute to making our communities better with increased opportunities for all our citizens, now, therefore, I, Meredith Bear Smith, Mayor of the Town of Landis, do hereby proclaim January 17th, 2022 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day and urge our community to rededicate ourselves to achieving Dr. King's dream. And I think it would be nice if we can just have that proclamation
As a motion.
as a motion.
Yes, do I have a motion to accept the proclamation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day 2021, which will be on January 17th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will move to number 9.
Number 9, consider NCMPA or NCAMPA 1 Board Commissioner members. So NCMPA stands for the North Carolina Municipal Power Agency number 1. And the town of Landis is a member of that agency. It is where we get our power from, electricities, and there are 2 basically, NCMPA 1 and 2, and we are members of Agency 1. Historically, the Public Works Director has been appointed as the commissioner with a public official as the first alternate. Mayor Pro Tem Stewart is currently our first alternate, and Alderman Overcash has agreed to serve as our second alternate. Please consider Joe Halliburton as our commissioner, reinstating Mayor Pro Tem Stewart to the first alternate and Alderman Overcash as our second alternate. This will ensure that if either of those members cannot attend, that we would have voting rights at the meetings. We had a situation last year where we didn't have anyone who could attend. I went, but we couldn't vote because I'm not one of those 3 people. So with 3, hopefully one of those 3 would be able to attend and we would be able to participate in any legislative action.
All right, at this time, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we consider the commission of the first and second alternates for the NCMPA 1 board, being Mr. Stewart, Mr. Overcash, and Mr. Halliburton.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And if you could stop by sometime in the next day or so, and we have to have those oaths done in front of a notary. Janine is our notary. So if there's a way that y'all could stop by at some point and get that oath from Amber, we can get that paperwork sent in this week. We are also asking for you to consider nominations for our NCMPA 1 rate committee participation. Received an email last week, and it showed myself and Rebecca Powell as members of this rate committee participation. I think that came as news to all of us. So we have an opportunity to send in any corrections to that by January the 20th. I looked at, and you have in your packet, the other members of that committee currently. Most of them are either town managers, public utility directors, or public officials. So it is a fairly complicated committee in that the information that they review is very technical in nature. So I think it would be advantageous to us to have Joe Halliburton as our representative, and Mayor Pro Tem Stewart has expressed an interest in being our alternate. As we mentioned earlier, he currently represents us for the general meetings with NCAMPA. So I would ask that you consider Joe Halliburton and Mayor Pro Tem Stewart to serve on that committee.
I have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept Alderman Stewart and Joe Halliburton to the NCMPA Rate Commission Committee.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 11 is consider our Heritage Day celebration. The Passive Park Blue Ribbon Committee and several other citizens from town have expressed an interest in bringing back the Heritage Day celebration tradition. Historically, this celebration was held the first Saturday in May. We did go back and do a little bit of digging historically, and it started out in the 80s and was sponsored by the American Legion and was really kind of considered more of a May Day, May Fest kind of thing. In the 90s, I think it moved to June and took on the name of a Heritage Day and became sponsored by the town. Part of the reason for the change in sponsorship was from a liability perspective. The town has coverage that will allow for the safety of everyone at that gathering, and if we ever wanted to do fireworks or something of that nature, we would have the appropriate coverage to be able to do that. It also happens typically on town grounds and is an event that I feel like the community really gets behind, and we'd like to see that come back. Would allow us to have two major events that the town sponsors each year, one being Heritage Day in the spring and then the Fall Festival in the fall. So I would ask that you consider approving the first Saturday in May each year as Heritage Day. The planning and organization for the day will be led by our Recreation Director, Jessica Stamper, and that will allow us to have any funding that we need for that allocated, and will allow us then to not be bound by any other particular committee within the community. Would allow us to do whatever we would like as a board with those funds. May start out that we want to look at using any funds that are generated from that for Passive Park, but that may not be necessary for an extended period of time. So it just allows a little bit more leeway to look at it as a town-sponsored event.
I'm going to ask that this be tabled for right now, since there's been some miscommunication about this, and we revisit this next month.
Is there any discussion?
I just have one more question, whether we table it or not. Is the first Saturday in May the historical day that it used to be held on?
That is the day it was held on when it first started.
Okay. I just wanted that for whether we table it for this, whether we table it for this month and approach it next month or decide on it. I just needed that for some clarity.
I was on the board 25 years ago when this was going on, and every year the cost increased and increased and increased.
Hold on. Can you please move up to the microphone?
And it got up to about $35,000 the last year it was held.
Wow.
That's the reason it got stopped. It cost more and more every year as it went down the road. I think we should stick to the Fall Festival and do a real good job with it. That's just my personal feelings.
So do
So
we?
is our conclusion, do we table this date for Heritage Day till next month?
I'm for
I
that.
agree with that.
I'll second that one.
Do you want to vote on bringing the event back and then table the date? Okay.
So we're going to table it. We'll bring it back next month. The one thing I would say is that we have control over the amount of expense that is spent, and and that is something that we can certainly discuss. But you ultimately do control that. If that's a concern, you can limit that amount.
Well, I'm all for the the tree ceremony and the Winter Fest and the Fall Fest and all, but, too much can be too
Oh, I
much
understand.
sometimes.
I understand.
We just need to concentrate on doing a real good job of what we already got going, in my opinion.
Okay.
Diane, I heard you say that money could be used for the Passive Park. Do you anticipate this Heritage Day making money?
I think the Heritage Day could go a couple of different ways depending on what is decided to be done with it. Traditionally, I think it was an opportunity for a large number of vendors to come out and sell their goods or their crafts, those type things, and kind of represent items that are made in North Carolina those folks would pay a fee to be part of the celebration or part of the opportunity. In addition, there would typically be food trucks, that type thing. We had discussed an opportunity to maybe have local talent have an opportunity to perform. I think other items that had happened at one point and probably raised the price of it primarily was probably geared toward, at one point, there was, I think, a fairly large firework display. And those things are fairly expensive. If you looked at total net proceeds and you included something of that nature, I don't think you would make money. If you do it more like we do the Fall Festival, folks pay a small fee to have an opportunity to attend. There's a possibility that you would do a little more than offset your expenses.
The large supporters aren't here anymore. The mill companies put a lot of money in it back then. They're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Do you have the information you can look back on and see what it did cost? Maybe the last 2 or 3 times it took place? Is that
The last
available?
time that it took place, from what I remember, now this is just, was 2001 or 2, and the last one was rained out like really bad storms, and then they just never did it again.
That's the other consideration with me. Let's try to have one that doesn't get rained out and concentrate on it.
There can be rain anytime that you have an outdoor
Right.
event.
Right.
Well, we'll certainly table it and bring it back to you next month. I'll try and get a little bit more history on it and give you guys an opportunity to contemplate. I would say if you want it to be, if you decide to move forward with it, it is a major event. And a lot of planning and an organization has to go in to making that a success. It's something that can't be done overnight.
All right, we will move to item number 12.
11. Yeah, number 12, sorry. Consider the Public Safety Department updates and end-of-the-year report. So you have before you, Dr. Lachetti could not be here this evening. He and Assistant Director Mr. Young are at a public safety meeting in Cherokee, North Carolina, through midday on Thursday. So they could not be here tonight to present this to you, but I wanted to, it is a lengthy memo, but I think it is worth reading to you for our citizens to have an opportunity to understand a little bit more about what has been happening in public safety over the past year. As we turn the page on 2021 and begin a new year in 2022, I am deeply impressed of the significant things that were accomplished by the Town of Landis Public Safety Department this past year. We have been through a lot of new in the past 12 months as we work diligently to combine our fire and police services into a new public safety department. Today, I'm proud to state that we are meeting that goal head-on and continuing to make improvements every day. I would like to start by summarizing just a few of the accomplishments the Landis Police and Safety Department have made in 2021. The hiring and reclassification of our first public safety officer, Detective Sergeant Dakota Toms. The addition of 3 new full-time firefighters, allowing us to staff a full engine company with an officer, engineer, and firefighter. New police body cameras and tasers. The purchase of much-needed replacement equipment within both departments. An increase from an ISO Class 4 to an ISO Class 2 for both of our fire districts. The awarding of grant funds from various sources. The increased community outreach programs and initiatives such as fire and life safety classes for school children. A prescription drop box program. A safe exchange area. Coffee with a cop. National Night Out. Permanent checking station for car seats at the Landis Fire Department. And Shop with a Cop. Updated policies and procedures meeting industry best practices for both departments. Of 2 public safety trucks to best meet the needs of the department now and in the future. The addition of 1 new full-time police officer or public safety position. Police evidence room has been audited and inventoried. The rollout of new computer systems and laptops for the police department and the fire department. issued IFAK trauma kits to the Landis police officers, completion of a successful audit by the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education Training and Standards Commission on the Landis Police Department, a night shift differential pay for police officers at $1 per hour increase, the surplus of old and outdated equipment from both departments resulting in an increase in monies to put toward other projects and equipment, several promotions within both departments with new hiring and promotional standards established, increase in part-time firefighter salaries to $12 per hour to be more competitive with surrounding departments, new committees formed to work on things such as hiring, recruitment, apparatus, and policies and procedures, and much more. The Landis Public Safety Department also had several favorable media mentions and highlights this year. Those links are attached for your review. The Public Safety Department has grown leaps and bounds since its inception, beginning in January of 2021. We are now on track to hire our second public safety officer, Heather Marlin, who will start on January the 12th. Ms. Marlin comes to us both a certified police officer and certified firefighter with experience gained from working at Morganton Public Safety. We will also welcome another new employee, Melvin Snipes, who will be taking the school resource officer position at South Rowan High School. Mr. Snipes comes to us with over 20-plus years of law enforcement experience. I hope to introduce both of these new employees to the board and town at the February meeting. Additionally, Brian Cook will begin basic law enforcement training on January 31st. Mr. Cook was previously scheduled to attend BLET last semester, but had to withdraw due to medical reasons. He will once again attend training and will become another public safety officer for the town of Landis, certified in both police and fire operations. The Landis Police Department is also in the process of hiring for one vacant police position. A conditional offer of employment has been given to an applicant and a background investigation is currently being conducted. We still have one police officer on medical leave with the police department. The fire department is fully staffed. In the month of November, the Landis Police Department responded to 596 events, both self-initiated and calls for service. The Landis Fire Department responded to 58 calls for service. You have those service logs attached for your information. In December, the Landis Police Department responded to 562 events, and the Fire Department responded to 92 calls. After review, the 2021 yearly totals for both departments are 7,787 events for the Landis Police Department and 967 for the Fire Department. I would also like to make mention of some grants that have been awarded and or applied for between both departments. The Landis Police Department has received the following grants. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety, $25,000, no match is required. This grant is to aid the department in the purchasing of protective equipment such as protective uniform gear and gas masks. Norfolk Southern Railroad Corporation, a $5,000 grant, no match required. This grant is to aid the department in purchasing AEDs for the police vehicles. And the North Carolina League of Municipalities, $250, no match required for each body ballistic vest that we purchase. That is per vest, not a total of $250, but $250 per vest. The Landis Fire Department has applied for the following grants and are awaiting information on awards on those. The Firehouse Subs grant for $50,000, no match is required. This grant, if approved, would be to purchase a station-based Cascade SCBA filling station for the fire department. Awards for that will be announced in April of 2022. And then the North Carolina League of Municipalities, a 50-50 match grant up to $5,000. And if that grant is awarded, it would be used to purchase a thermal imaging drone for the fire department. As you can tell, we are looking at ways of supplementing our budget with grant opportunities. To date, we have been successful in obtaining just over $30,000 this fiscal year. I hope to continue this trend in the years ahead and will look for even more opportunities benefiting both departments in the future. I would also like to remind the public of our combined monthly Coffee with a Cop event. held with China Grove Police Department at the French Express on Highway 29 in China Grove. We have held this event since beginning in November and have enjoyed visiting with citizens from both towns. Our next event will be Tuesday, February the 1st. All are welcomed and encouraged to attend. Lastly, I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to you, our elected officials, and town administrations for all your help and support in 2021. I know there are many great things ahead for the town of Landis and the Landis Public Safety Department in 2022. We could not do it without the support from each of you and the unwavering support and love we get from citizens and businesses of Landis. Thank you for all that you do. I look forward to continuing to serve our employees and citizens in 2022. Respectfully, Zach Lachetti.
All right. At this time, is there any questions?
I have some comments
Okay.
about this. It's great what Dr. Lachetti has done for the town. Looking through the log, I'm kind of disappointed. I don't see any of Lachetti answering any calls or Young answering any calls on this. You know, I'm quite sad that, you know, we have officers out here, a night officer working by themselves, when maybe we could switch some of these around to have 2 officers on duty at all times at night. I mean, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just putting it out there with some concerns about this. I mean, we had an incident happen just here recently that could have gone very bad very quickly. But thankfully, thanks to the help to the Rowan County Sheriff's Department, they were there to help. It would have been nice to have another officer out there of ours to help. I mean, that's my comment. Let me say this too. I'm not 100% thrilled about this thermal imaging drone. I'm not sure why we need that when there's probably 4 available in the county at all times.
The rescue squad crashed theirs and it's not going to be fixed. It was going to cost too much money to fix
Right,
it.
but they have
Kannapolis
one.
Fire Department doesn't have one.
Well,
The
Rockwell
Kannapolis
has
Police
one.
have one, yeah.
Rockwell has one. TJ Brown has one.
Yeah. But all of our trucks have cameras, thermal imagery cameras.
But why do we need the drone?
Well, I
Yeah,
called
he-
5
he's-
fire chiefs and they said that was the most foolish thing they ever heard of.
Yeah.
And one of them has 4 stations. He's got the biggest fire department in Rowan County.
Would this be used for the police or fire side?
It would be used for both. It actually is used to reduce workers' comp claims. It will help the fire to identify hot spots, structural integrity, and hazmat situations instead of going into the building or prior to going into the building. On the police side, it would help with missing persons. And then for town events, we would be able to do photography and video overhead of if there was anything that folks wanted to maybe post up on our website. So certainly not something that we have to accept. It's something that we have applied for. If it is awarded, it is not something that you have to accept and receive. At that point, it would be your opportunity to decline, or if you decided that you wanted to direct me to have us withdraw that application, we can do that as well.
Darryl, what'd you find out about licensing?
How many licensed pilots are we gonna have?
I think it will depend on if we get the award, first of all, and then we would have the appropriate training for those licensed pilots. I don't know how many he plans to have.
I talked to a guy today that's a licensed drone pilot, and he is a private individual. He doesn't do it commercially. If you do it commercial, which the town would be considered commercial, they have to have a certificate from the FAA. It's a certificate 107, I think was the name. It's a remote pilot. Then what kind of insurance policy are we going to have to have? If they crash this thing into somebody's house or car, hurt somebody with it,
Right.
it just don't seem like it makes any sense to me. There's other places that money could be spent.
Do we have insurance that would cover something like this already? Or would that be a
That
separate?
wouldn't be- I wouldn't think that'd be on a policy.
I don't think it's addressed specifically on a policy. It would possibly be covered under our umbrella. I would have to call and ask.
The chiefs that I called about it said that it has to have perpetual training. It's just like knot tying. You don't keep up with it, you lose it. It's
Sure.
not like riding a bicycle. and they question like bad weather, storms, power lines.
Being in a controlled-
Wildlife fires is the biggest thing I saw on the computer that it's used for.
Being in a controlled airspace here in Landis, you
Yeah.
got to, you're not exempt from answering to that either.
Right.
This is also too, in the event that we were to get awarded the grant, correct?
Right. At that point, you would have an option as to whether to receive the grant or not. It's simply been applied for at this
Right.
stage. And there is additional information in your packet that you were handed at the beginning of this evening that shows you the breakdown on the cost for the unit and Dr. Lichetti's application for that.
You can actually buy this thing for $10,000.
Yes, sir.
Says total cost is $11,663 on the second page of his report. $11,663.
Since this is somewhat hypothetical at the moment, however, was the entire premise of the grant from the League of Municipalities centered around this usage? Or was this the usage that was pinpointed by the department?
This was something that the grant had very specific requirements and was designed truly to reduce workers' comp claims. So they gave a list of things that would possibly qualify, and this was on that list. It was not something that we just decided we wanted to go and get. It's not something that you will be asked to fund in your budget if we don't get the grant. It was just an opportunity to add to our arsenal of items that we can use in the field. Again, it has just been applied for. There's no guarantee that we would get the money, and if we do, you have an option to choose not to participate. At this point, it has simply been applied for.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments under item 12?
Item number 13 is consider a budget amendment number 7 for public safety. Now, this is a little different in that we have received these funds. One of them we have actually received a check for, and the other one we are asking that you consider accepting it. We won't get the funds until you actually accept the offer. So Rowan County recently decided to use part of their COVID allocation to help support rural fire departments. The Landis Fire Department also provides service for the East Landis Fire District. For that service, Rowan County has sent $50,000 in COVID dollars to help with any funding needed for the department. We currently do not have backup generators at either of our fire departments, and that maybe does not seem like a significant issue because when we think about our homes, when we lose power, we think we can, if our garage door doesn't open, we just go out and pull the little handle down and raise it manually. I did do some investigation, and the door at the fire department here at Town Hall weighs 1,200 pounds. So to raise that door manually can be done, but it is very time consuming and very difficult. This money would allow us to consider, we have when this building was built or remodeled, it was done so in a way that would accommodate a permanent generator being installed here that would supply energy to the fire department. It would not support Town Hall at the same time because of the way the wiring is done here. At the fire department across the railroad tracks, that one would support both the fire and the police department there. So with 2 generators, we would have multiple areas of town that would then be supported anytime we had a power outage. If we needed to set up a command center in the situation of an emergency storm or something like that, we could use the police department for that. So, in addition to that $50,000, Dr. Lichetti has received a grant from Norfolk Southern Railway and the amount of $5,000 to purchase AEDs for our patrol cars. We are proposing that you accept these funds and approve the attached budget amendment that allocates $50,000 to capital outlay for backup generators and $5,000 to grant expense for AEDs.
How many AEDs would that buy? Do you know?
It depends on how much we can get them for. We're trying to do a lot of research there in that it's our understanding that Rowan County is getting ready to replace all of their AEDs. So we want to go with the same brand and model that they use. If we do that and we get to, let's say we get to a situation first and use our AED, they will replace our pads at their cost, not ours. But our models have to be like theirs.
Compatible with it.
So we're trying to make sure that those things are compatible. I don't know the cost of those individually yet. I think they're somewhere around $1,000. Our goal would eventually be to have one in each patrol car. If we can't get it in each patrol car to start with, we would house them at the police department and have the patrol agent come in and check, or the patrol employee come in and check them out at the beginning of their shift and check them back in at the end of the shift.
If they were $1,000, we would be able to get 5, and if they were 8, he was hoping to get 6.
Talking about the generators, I would hope the generator would be big enough to run the 10 horsepower fire siren. In case there was like a tornado coming through and another one was going to come through, it'd be able to run the alarm for the whole town.
I'll make sure that we
Not
get it
just for
to that.
raising the door. And also,
Right.
a lot of fire departments go to Raleigh and get these things on government surplus. And I know one fire chief's got 4 stations, and he was able to get the necessary generators for 1/3 less the cost of new ones. And it's perfectly good equipment they furnish you down there on government surplus.
When you say that it will power the fire department, would that also be this room right here?
I will have to check on that. Hopefully it would include this room, but I don't know, to be honest with you.
So currently for the generator that services town hall in case of a power outage, because of, I guess, the compartmentalizing nature of the wiring, we couldn't piggyback this entire building on that existing generator unit, right?
Well, we don't have an existing unit for town hall. We currently bring in a backup, like a portable unit that then is hooked in either to town hall or to the fire department, depending on which one we need the most at the moment. There is a natural gas connection that is set up to handle a generator, and we are awaiting approval to make sure that you guys are good with purchasing generators, and then at that point, we will have someone come in, professional come in and give us an estimate for each and their recommendation of what we would do, and we'll take bids for those so that we get the most economical approach to funding both, or to purchasing both of those.
So $50,000 of capital outlay, would that suffice in setting up both locations with an adequate generator source?
Those have been the estimates that we have been told so far are that they can range anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000. So we're anticipating that with purchasing 2 of them, we can find a way to do it for that $50,000.
Okay. What were assuming this was the number one item for allocation of these specific funds, what was the second running item that the public safety department needs?
I did not receive a second opportunity, and that primarily is because, just to be bluntly honest, I received a lot of pushback from various folks when we had a recent power outage and did not have a backup generator. Apparently that is a significant issue for our public safety department, and so I encourage them to take these funds and request that.
Can I share that I have been told that one of the reasons on the ISO rating for them not receiving a 1 was because we did not have a backup generator. So just thought I would share that with
Oh,
you.
thank you.
That
Thank you,
deducted
Amber.
from their points.
I didn't realize that door weighed 1,200 pounds.
I did check into that personally because I knew we had some concerns around that, and I had some questions myself, so I did
If we
ask
don't get
about
the
that.
generator, we'll have to order some Charles Atlas courses. You have to be from
Yeah,
Charles
we
Atlas
don't
so
want
much.
workers' comp claims from somebody trying to lift a 1,200-pound door. But, Amber, thank you for that. I appreciate you reminding me of that.
Any other questions at this time? Any more comments?
You sold me.
Madam Board, I move that we consider the budget amendment number 7 for the additional public safety funds disbursement to the
second.
capital outlay.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our Passive Park Committee met and is the reason for number 14. They are requesting that an approval for the purchase of a waterproof message board that would be able to be put up at the park. It would start off by housing the plans for the park, which would be able to display any upcoming events there and items of that nature. And they would like to have approval to spend up to $2,500 for the message board to be put at Passive Park.
All right, I'm going to ask again for this one to be tabled because not all the committee members were able to see what was wanted or what was going to be. I mean, it was kind of in the dark when we were looking at a magazine, and it was a very quick flip of looking at something.
Okay.
I would like to table that till next month so all the members of the committee can see and kind of get an idea, get everyone's input on that.
When is that meeting?
The 25th of January,
5:30?
5:30.
Okay, so we're going to table that one. Number 15 does not require any action, but it does give you a small list of surplus property that was sold in December. So I promised that I would bring that report to you each month. So there's a total of $732 that was received from the sale of 3 different types of items in December.
Does that money go back to each department?
It does.
Okay.
So, and tonight, without further ado, I am excited to introduce to you once again Mr. Chase Norwood. He is going to give you his first finance officer's report, and he's done a great job of getting an understanding of our finances and has spent some time not only providing you with the statements that you have, but tonight also offering some comments on those. No, you're good.
Just pull your mic down to you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Can everyone hear me? Real well?
Yes.
All right. Please see attached for the financial reports by fund for December 31st, 2021. These reports are particularly important because they reflect the halfway point for our current fiscal year. A statement of cash balances has also been attached to show where we are in terms of liquidity, and I'll follow up with a breakdown by where we are by fund. In the general fund, revenues are healthy at 59% to date. This is primarily due to an outstanding 72% of projected property taxes being collected at this point in the fiscal year, which is also our largest revenue source for this fund. These strong property tax collections are being slightly offset by lagging collections in local option sales tax at 30%, which is primarily due to the fact that sales tax is received 3 months in arrears, so present collection levels are significantly understated. Overall, fund levels are in line with prior year performance. The general fund is also on target with expenditure levels at 49%. Departments have done a very good job of spending within acceptable levels. As of December 31st, revenues exceed expenditures in this fund by $205,753. And if this continues, if the year were to end today, at December 31st, fund balances would have increased by $205,753. In the water and sewer fund, revenues are significantly overperforming budget expectations at 61%. This is due in part to tap fees being collected at twice the expected rate. Expenses are also exceptionally low for the year. This is likely due to the planned debt service payments that have not yet been paid. I expect there will be a correction in this fund later in the year. However, overall, we're in a very good place with this fund, and at this time, retained earnings sit at $574,468. This amount will likely not be that high at the end of the year, but it will still be very positive overall. Stormwater fund revenues sit at 86% for this fund. These revenues are offset by 67% in expenses. This fund is on target to finish year-end very close, and as of December 31st, the fund balance is increased by $20,226.
Great job.
In the electric fund, revenues are at 47% to date, which is within acceptable levels at this point in the fiscal year. Currently, this slight deficit is being offset by very low spending levels of 39% on the year, and if this trend continues, the fund will end the fiscal year with a fair amount of retained earnings at $517,136. And that concludes my financial report. Does anyone have any questions?
Anybody? Good
right.
job.
Next, we have the manager's report. This month's manager report comes with two parts. The first looks at finishing the calendar year strong, and the second part highlights plans for the second half of the fiscal year. For many companies and some towns, December is not a productive time of the year. That was not the case here in Landis. We did take some time to celebrate Christmas with employees. The luncheon was highlighted by our first annual Employee of the Year award. The recipient is voted on by all employees and goes to the one receiving the most votes. This year, that award went to our park ranger, Dannon Webster. Dannon began full-time work with us in 2021, but has been a part-time employee for a number of years. Personally, I don't think it could have gone to a more deserving employee. She does some of the hardest physical work at Collier Wilderness Park by weed eating and maintaining our walking trails. She has single-handedly defeated a number of poisonous snakes, always has a smile on her face, and is the right-hand assistant to Jessica at all of our town events. We are fortunate to have her as a member of the Landis team. Congratulations, Dannon. The leadership team also voted on Department Head of the Year. There was a tie this year between Amber Levi and Rebecca Powell. Amber is building a best-in-class human resources department. I know this because our contact at the League of Municipalities now has other small-town personnel departments calling Amber for advice. She inherited a mess and has turned the clutter into organized personnel files and a program to support our employees. Her actions have led to a change in morale for employees in all departments. As for Rebecca Powell, she completed her first year with us in December. She leads our utility services collection department and much more. We have a very sophisticated meter reading system that allows us to read meters electronically and pull the readings into the system remotely. Rebecca has learned the system, and for the first time, we are fully utilizing all of its capabilities. We now have a way for all of our customers to see their daily utility usage online. In addition to her customer service responsibilities, she has become our technical specialist that is working with VC3 to improve our computers, email, and limit internet downtime. There are not words to express the importance of these ladies to me professionally and personally. I also want to take a moment to thank our Public Works crew, in particular the electrical department. On Christmas Day around lunch, I received a call concerning a widespread power outage in Landis. The outage was driven by an issue on the Duke Power side and could be lengthy to repair. This outage could not have happened at a worse time for our citizens or our employees. Everyone was preparing for Christmas lunch. Fortunately, Duke Power responded quickly and repaired their issue. That allowed our team to then reconnect and restore power in record time for our issue. I estimate that electricity was restored in less than an hour and a half. While that is impressive, The most impressive part is that I did not hear one complaint from our employees about having to leave their families and work on an electrical grid. When I arrived on site, Joe, Chris, Eric, and Alan were all working as a team to finish up correcting the problem. Thanks to them, all of the Landis electrical customers were able to enjoy a hot Christmas lunch. Thank you for who you are and all you do for our town. January is an interesting month for local government because it starts a new calendar year and it marks the start of the second half of the fiscal year. For me, it's a time to measure how our town is doing financially for the fiscal year and how we are doing on our overall goals. It is also a time to look at what we want to accomplish in this second half of the year. We have spent some time tonight talking about various programs and departments throughout town. I want to take this time with the manager's report to highlight a few goals for the remainder of the fiscal year. As you know, we've received half of our ARP money. We will get the second half probably in the next 6 months or so. That total will be just a little over $1 million. I would like to start those discussions and get a plan approved for that in the second half of the year. We will be launching our new town website hopefully in the second half of the year. We've seen some drafts of that and are starting to look at it live. Amber's done a great job with that, and we are really close on that. And then we're going to be having annual budget work sessions. On the ARP piece, last week additional legislation passed to provide final guidance on how ARP funds can be spent. I applaud you for your patience in waiting to determine how to use the $1 million given to Landis. The new legislation broadens the programs that qualify for funding. Your patience is going to allow us to consider a number of items, programs, and ideas that would not have qualified at the start of the process. I've asked Chase to keep up with training and be familiar with what qualifies under this program. I will be working the rest of this month with leadership team to develop ideas they would like considered for funding. I'm also using this time to ask you to select a time in February to hear the staff's request and start to develop your plan on how you want to spend our $1 million. We have until the end of 2026 to use all of the funds. So what I would like to do is come to you for some type of work session in February where we can talk about what your ideas are for the funds, and we can also allow the leadership team to bring you some ideas from the departments themselves. You may have ideas that obviously is certainly your decision in the end, but would like to at least give the departments an opportunity to express some needs that they may have as well. As I mentioned earlier, the new website hopefully will be up before the end of this fiscal year. I am excited about what the site is going to bring to our citizens. The navigation will be much easier. The interaction with town departments will be much better, and we'll be able to update it easier to provide more information in a quicker way. This year on the budget session, I want to expand what we do with the budget process. To allow for questions and getting to know the departments better, I would like to have 2 work sessions. Each session will be designed to let you ask any questions you have for leadership. Allow leadership to present their main goals for the upcoming year. Take a look at proposed numbers and start to think about long-term planning. Chase will be an integral part of facilitating the process this year. Please look for a proposed calendar in February. The remainder of this fiscal year, the 2022 calendar and heading into 2023, are all looking positive for the town of Landis. Please also find attached a tentative calendar of town-sponsored events. I look forward to sharing the journey with you as we facilitate positive growth in our community. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of a bright future. And it looks like I possibly did not get that calendar event to you, but
I'm sorry. You can just email it out.
I'll email it out to everybody. It actually is Jessica's calendar for the year, so we'll have that to you. I think that if we expand our work sessions for budget, it would allow you to get to know and ask any operational questions you might have of each of our department heads. So we're working on that calendar, and we'll bring it to you in February.
All right. At this time, we will move to board comments. Mr. Stewart,
No comments tonight.
Mr. Coyer,
When am I gonna pay any streets? I've been told the state's backed out on that.
I have not been told the state has backed out. That does not mean they haven't, and just haven't told me yet, but we are supposed to be on the contract. I will follow up on that and find out for you.
I'd urge everybody to really be on board with that $1 million to pay some streets.
okay.
People are fussing all over town about the streets, and they're bad shape. They're terrible shape.
Mr. Abercrombie,
I have none.
Ms. Tales.
I don't have any.
All right. At this time, I don't have any other than thank you for viewing. We are going to consider a motion going into executive session under State Statute 143-318.11, 3, and 5. We will ask that everyone please leave town hall or the boardroom. Is it open?
Anyone who would like to stay, we may or may not have action after the executive session. I know it's cold outside. If you would like to stay, I'll be glad to open up a town hall and let you sit in there while we meet.
All right. At this time, do
This
I have a
board-
motion?
Mayor and Board, I move we go into executive session under State Statute 143-318.11, subsection 3 and 5.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.